Good morning. Thank you for having me. I had a lot to say coming into this, but hearing some of the other testimony, I'd like to just refute some of the statements made. The gentleman from the last panel quoted a 2013. Say again?
No, I didn't hear your name. And
My name is Craig Lobo. I'm from Tiverton, Rhode Island, lifelong resident of Rhode Island. The gentleman that was up here before quoted a 2013 FBI report to try and debunk the theory that mass shootings were happening in gun-free zones. If you take what he says fact, he stated there were 113 shootings, and 25 of those were in a gun-friendly zone. Last time I checked, 88 shootings is a lot more than 25. Over 3 times as much happened in a gun-free zone. So if we're going to talk about shootings happening in gun-friendly zones, the numbers just aren't there to support that theory. The gentleman to my far left, thank you for your service, first of all. Secondly, the U.S. military did you a huge disservice and trained you very poorly if in a time of combat you can tell the difference between semi-automatic fire and automatic fire. Anybody who's been in a high-stress situation like that will know that it's a very difficult thing to recognize. Also, the idea that changing his magazines was very difficult. Under that stress, maybe it was, but as a member of the U.S. military, you should have been trained very well in changing your magazines. I mean, the majority of us sitting here and who have spoke here today can change their magazines very, very, very quickly. Okay. And then he spoke on, again, the gentleman sitting to my far left, spoke on the minority rights shouldn't affect the safety and security of the majority. I think it's pretty clear in Rhode Island after tonight who the majority truly is in this state. We showed up in force. The numbers are in the thousands, and it's undisputed. It's on every. His example of concealed carry holders is absurd to me. This is my community. These are my people. I see them and I work with them very closely, and I have never seen somebody treat a firearm who is a concealed carry holder with such disregard.
Senator Metz.
yeah, can I ask a question? Have you been in the military and been under fire?
I have not. I am law enforcement, so I do understand high stress. Thank you. Okay, so the red flag bill violates more constitutional rights than Charlie Sheen violates 10 commandments. That needs to be thrown away as it sits, or rewritten to protect constitutional rights. If you're willing to violate multiple constitutional rights for an illusion of safety, we have a serious problem in this legislation. There was talk about having the age to purchase a long gun moved to 21. That's a dangerously slippery slope, because what you are doing in turn is saying that Rhode Island residents are no longer considered adults until they are 21. If I cannot practice my fundamental Second Amendment rights when I'm 18 years old because I am not considered an adult, how can I be responsible enough to vote? Are you ready to battle that case? The politicizing of a terrible tragedy is extremely unbecoming. When it is said that Rhode Islanders can do better than this is where I agree. Rhode Islanders can do better than a knee-jerk reaction and emotional law trying to be passed. Politics or a political agenda are not more important than our children's lives. All the gun legislation that was put forth is a cop-out, knee-jerk reaction founded upon misleading or flat-out false data. This legislation and lack of proper action being taken is a major disservice to our children. We are not looking at the actual facts here. What we are actually doing is looking for the simplest solution, and I'm using quotes here, the simplest solution to a very, very complex problem. And the complex problem is a societal problem, and we have a very broken culture. What happens is we have become a culture that glorifies evil. We've glorified drugs, we've glorified gangs, we've glorified broken homes. And the result is evil, which cannot be legislated. So as I've heard a lot of talk from the 1994 to 2014 ban, you've heard all the statistics. What I'd like to just bring to your attention is a study done by UPenn. While gun violence did fall during the ban, it is likely due to other factors, this study found. Quote, "We cannot clearly credit the ban with any of the nation's recent drop in gun violence, and indeed there has been discernible reduction in lethality and extent of injury of gun violence." So, based on this study, the idea that the assault weapons ban worked is false. And I'll close with this. I hate to compare the state of Rhode Island to the state of Florida. I like to think that we are a lot better than them. Where we rank across the board, as far as the gun community, as far as the Second Amendment is concerned, we have some of the very strictest gun laws, and we are a very safe community. However, in Florida, what we saw was the single biggest failure of our government in modern history. I'll say that again, the single biggest failure of government in modern history. This is the very same government that wants sole responsibility for my safety and my security, for your safety, for your security. This government continually drops the ball. This FBI continuously drops the ball. They dropped the ball in Texas. That individual, I will not say his name, should not have had a firearm. They dropped the ball in Florida. They dropped the ball over and over again. And they expect me to give up my only means to defend myself under the false pretense that they will keep me safe. After a failure of the magnitude that we saw in Florida, the logic doesn't add up. And it's not something that I think Rhode Islanders should stand for, and that's all.